Okay, so just right out of the gate, I think The Nun 2 as a title is really silly.
The Nun 2.
What do you mean The Nun 2?
Yeah.
Nun 2. It sounds like a spoof with Charlie Sheen and Anna Faris. Like The Nun 2.
Scary Movie 3.
That's when you go : Dead Reckoning or equivalent. If it's your second nun horror film.
Sometimes, just calling a film 2 can be really cynical. I think calling something 2 is better for like a comedy.
Yeah.
It's like, Shrek 2.
Rob Schneider is the nun. Also starring David Spade.
Yeah.
They're going to realize being a nun
you know what it
isn't so easy.
That sat on a executive scheduling for so long as working title, The Nun 2, that they went, when it got to release, they thought, we haven't got something else. What? Okay, let's give it Roman numerals.
Yeah.
Not even The Nun Part 2.
Just
The Nun Returns.
A big fat number 2.
Not enough films do returns, by the way. I can only think of The Mummy and Mary Poppins.
The Nun Returns would be great.
And Superman.
Yeah, Nun : spiritual evil. Whatever you want to generic. Just The Nun 2 inherently sounds silly to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, The Nun 2. I didn't see The Nun 1.
Okay.
I was aware of the horror of The Nun from The Conjuring 2, of which the nun appears.
The more you say it, the stupider it sounds.
Yeah. The Conjuring 2, I actually didn't really dislike. It starts, I think, fairly interesting, and then is doing what I think a lot of these popular horror franchise films do, and what The Nun 2 does, is they descend in the final act to this really action-heavy final boss thing that's neither interesting or scary.
Like a video game.
Do you know what? Yeah, it's like you get to the final act and the thing reaches all of their power. And you have to and it's setting things on fire and Jedi pushing people across the wall. That's not interesting. Anyway.
Like the end of, sorry to bring it up again, but It Chapter 2, do you remember? When
yes, it gets really, final boss.
Yeah, final boss
We
level,
all have to use our powers to and the MacGuffin, and you got to put it in the thing to kill the thing. Like, it stops being scary or interesting. And I've noticed a lot of the horror franchises do that. Anyway, The Nun 2 is the sequel to The Nun, which I haven't seen.
I got that from the title.
But the setup for The Nun 2 is the most the studio have asked us to make one I've ever seen. So, the nun is back, and the nun is killing people all around Europe. And this high-up man from somewhere in the Vatican who's eating steak on a dinner table calls in the woman who defeated the nun last time and goes, "You're not going to believe
what's happening."
I could hear the pitch meeting through this whole film. He was literally he didn't deliver it like this, but the byline of the undertone script is, "You're not going to believe this." Do you remember that last year when you defeated that evil nun? There was that huge spectacle exorcism and you did a bloody good job with it. Well, you're not going to believe this. She's only bloody back.
They should call it The Nun Returns.
And we thought you were just so good at dealing with it last time. Would you mind just doing it again? Which is just like the studio saying, hey, that nun film that made a bunch of money from that other spin-off, why is she back? Just come back.
Reasons.
Just you can't ever really kill a demon.
Yeah.
You just send them away. I was just like, really? Is that it? Plot. The nun's killing people. It's after this sort of eye goggle thing. And,
Google Glass.
And all of the scary bits take place in the same bit underneath an old building. And after the third time, I'm like, oh, all the scary scenes going to be set when someone walks into this very dark, abandoned thing with old furniture. Yes. Like with a lot of these films, I'm not the first person to say this, it's not scary if I popped a balloon behind your ear and made you jump. And after the third little scare sequence, you just see them coming. Yeah. And what I was thinking about? We saw Barbie for 30 minutes in mute, just by a happenstance of filming something in a cinema, and we sort of got to deconstruct it in a way for its purely visual merit and sort of see it almost like a storyboard. I really believe if you muted the nun and you didn't have that screechy violin and just loud bangs, the film would completely lose its power.
Yeah,
it really would.
It's a really good test.
And I know I'm not the first person to say that it's just loud noises being shouted at you, but when you're actually looking at what's being done, nothing scary or anything that is scary is just repeated again and again. The only scare trick this film has is to have a character's face with an all-black shadow room, and the camera pans, and when it pans back, the nun's face is behind them, and it goes, bleh! and that's literally the only trick the Nun 2 has. And the first time, you're like, ooh. And it does it 3 or 4 times of the 7 or 8 times it does it in the film, and you're like, is that it? And there's other times it does it with a pan, and the film doesn't pan a lot. So when the camera does this really dramatic pan, I'm like, I wonder why it's panning so hard. So when it pans back, the nun's there going, "Bleh." And that's unfortunately it. It is just, therefore, really, really boring. I was none too impressed.
Yeah.
I was none too scared.
Brilliant. How much fun did you have?
None.
There you go.
Twice. And that's it. You know what? I think if you're after that kind of scare, go and rewatch the 2012 Daniel Radcliffe Woman in Black film.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was actually quite solid with
Good bit of
Kieran
atmosphere
Hines.
in that.
Yeah, good atmosphere and just a great when he goes to that house and the woman in black is like watching him from above. I just thought the whole of it was deeply unnerving and scary.
Yeah, I had a really good experience at the cinema with that. I went to a cinema screen that was packed, and it was a very vocal, reactive audience, which would sound annoying, but actually
Works.
It really heightened it. And there's bits in that Woman in Black that's I've always still think are creepy. Like when he first gets to the house, he just looks out the window and she's just in the garden. Yeah, just like staring at him. I just find that really creepy.
And in the house when he walks up, there's just like a face there. And as soon as he's in the house, you just feel absolutely horrified.
What was scarier, The Nun 2 or Tar?
Tar.
Because you know what I'm saying?
Gonna
Like,
say,
Tar
I felt
has that
more
ghostly,
unsettled by Tar.
unsettling. And
Tar a haunting of the soul.
And literally Tar has a ghostly apparition that kind of haunts the
and
thing.
all the house scares in Tar.
Yeah.
Tar's scarier.
Yeah.
And just way more interesting.
But it's not a horror film.
Yeah. It's got nothing to say. It's just there. And again, I'll reiterate it. This fight when you're trying to like go towards the final sequence, don't final boss your villain.
No.
And also now they're doing the sort of Alien thing where like you're giving me the backstory and telling me everything about your monster and showing your monster from the first 5 minutes that the illusion is lost.
I also think that with horror, CGI should just be kept way away from it. I found that with Evil Dead Rise. Like the more that CGI becomes involved and distorted voices and they try and I'm just like, I just immediately know it's fake. Whereas if you can do it with actual prosthetics or actual physical effects, that's what like some of the stuff in Hereditary is pretty creepy because I know I'm not looking at an illusion.
Even in Insidious, which really started off the first Insidious, which started off this whole like franchising of horror, like sort of cookie cutter horror experience. I remember in the first Insidious film, you've got the red-faced man who's like the main thing that's stalking the kid, and then like 2/3 into that movie, they reveal this greater evil. When if you've seen it, you know, which is the old woman that would follow Patrick Wilson's character, and this mother was showing the photographs that she started taking. She noticed in every photograph the old lady was getting closer and closer to her son, and it's a really, really good scene. I encourage you to watch it. And at the end of Insidious, like, yes, the red-faced monster is there, but this second really, really creepy idea for a villain sneaks up on you, and it is very quite bang, but it's sort of like, like that second bit really caught my attention. That concept of a demon that can only be seen in photographs, like getting close to your son, I think is a really scary one. And then in the following Insidious films, I haven't seen them all, they go on to explain the old woman and have her there and ruin it. I'm like, you had a thing that was interesting and scary, and you've just showed me everything about it. Anyway, I've gone on a bit of a rant. The film's a bit boring and very uninteresting. That's The Nun 2.
If you had more fun than Nun, please email into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. I would be intrigued to know if anyone liked it, if anyone enjoyed it. And not just based on your review, I'm just sort of giving a cursory glance across the reviews and stuff. I just don't. It's made a lot of money for the, it's done well. But yeah, let us know your thoughts.
Do you think a nun is like a very, as a symbol internationally, is like known? It's like, corrupted, something that's meant to be for pure and angelic and wise.
Yeah, it's also like
quite an easy concept to grasp onto.
Yeah, there's also like the threat, the female, but in a female, the female body and the female persona being sort of rendered in a very mysterious way. Nuns, depersonalized under the habit, if you will. But it's not Sister Act, is it?
No. Well, there you go.